Hello, hello, happy Friday. Well, happy Friday, happy Thursday. I don't know what happened, but last time I said happy Wednesday. Today I'm saying happy Friday. I want to skip Thursday for some reason. I don't know what's going on with me. So, anyways, happy Thursday, everyone. Hopefully, everybody's doing great. As always, we have this great panel. We have Irina, Kara, and Bruno. Welcome. Thank you, guys. So, today we're going to be talking about a subject that has happened throughout the whole week for me, change. It's been a week of changes, good changes. I can't complain. Everything's been great. But on our day to day lives, we deal with a lot of changes, but usually we are set our ways and we tend to not deal really nice with change. So today we're going to be talking about that and let's understand a little bit of the science behind change. So I would like to go over a little bit of the psychology and neuroscience and all the things that are meat suit with this hormone soup. Hey, I said it for the first time. That's
Nailed
what
it.
so, Kara, if you can enlighten us with a little bit of knowledge on that.
Oh, absolutely. So your brain actually loves change. It's literally designed. It's called neuroplasticity. So your brain is actually designed for change. The reason that it appears hard, considering it's designed for it, is that your mush management is a genius, dynamic, capable genius that is also an idiot that gets stuck in ruts. And breaking out of a rut can be really hard. And what it does to us psychologically is it puts us back in that kidding space, that spot where we were the most incompetent we've ever been, back when we didn't know how to read, write, walk, talk, any of those things. And everybody else knew better than we did. And we internalize that. So when we're going through a change, it puts us in a new space. And when it's new, it's unfamiliar. And when it's unfamiliar, our brain is like, oh, I don't know what to do. And the amygdala can hijack the entire situation and react badly. Or your frontal cortex can take over and be like, wait, we do know how to do this. So the trick to the neuroscience, to the brain's capacity to change, is really all about committing. And it's the intention, the attention, and then the persistence of it that makes it easier and easier. You can think about it, the first time you did anything, it probably was not the best time. But the 300th time you did something, well, shoot, that's just old hat. You're designed that way, yeah.
Okay. So now that we know that we're designed and our brain actually enjoys it and loves it, the next thing will be embracing the change mindset, because we have a manifestation coach right here. And sometimes you really desire to have those changes happen in your life, but you don't know where to get started or how to even get started, because you hear right now we have an information overload on social media and the internet, and they tell you start with a vision board and then start, saying this every single day and da 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 da. But then you get overwhelmed because, like, oh my God, I got to do a vision board. I got to repeat this every day. And there's so many things. And when in reality, you just have to shift your perspective and really embrace the change, because change is going to bring opportunities. And for that, I would like to get Irina's perspective and knowledge.
Thank you. Yes, first of all, we like Kara mentioned, our brain was designed for changes, and changes is part of the life cycle, right? So each year we want to grow, we want to evolve, we want to change, because if we are not doing anything about it, we are just stagnating. And meaning it's just like, living the same year multiple years, because we don't want to do anything with the changes. We don't think about them. But sometimes life just throws changes at us, because this is the way the universe talks, right? If we are sitting too long at the same place, whether this is the relationships that don't work for us, or the job that we hate, but we are not able to move. The universe just presents these situations for us to get unbearable, and either people face the divorce, or they get fired from their prior job. So something really happens if you're not in the driver's seat for these changes. These changes are going to occur to people whether one way or another. So the whole point is just to understand that changes are the part of the process of our life, and let's do it consciously. Let's just create something for ourselves before the universe just gonna knock us on our head with something unpleasant. Let's just consciously create something good out of it. And obviously, like Johnny said, mindset is everything, right? So when we have the plan already in front of us, it's easier to move towards our goals and dreams and what exactly we want to bring into our reality, because vision is number one. If we don't have the vision or goal or something that we want to achieve, there is no destination for us to go. And our energy loves the structure, our energy loves the direction, and that's exactly how everything works. And we don't want to be overwhelmed with how we are gonna go throughout the whole process. We just focus on that step that we are particular in. Just focus and stay in the line that you are in, and everything is going to be discovered as you move along. So what I would like to tell everybody is just experiment with the changes, have the plan for your life, and take one step at a time towards that plan.
Yep. And that's the most important thing. Don't get overwhelmed. Take one step at a time. That is the main thing in life. It's just that right now we have, and please correct me if I'm wrong, everybody's trying to multitask. And that's how we get overwhelmed. Because you try to be more productive than your neighbor next door or the person that you're seeing right next to you at work. And remember, all of us have different gifts. There are people that are amazing at multitasking. You may not be amazing at multitasking, so why damage your persona or how you view yourself by thinking, oh my God, I'm not good enough? When you might be amazing on something completely different than that person, and that person cannot even match you in that field. So that will be the one thing. And dealing with change, it's kind of hard. It is. It takes a few tries. You don't get it on the first time. So, Bruno, tell us, do you have any tips, any ideas that you can give us on how to gracefully work with that with those changes and those transitions?
Yes, and I'm also going to touch on a comparison as well, like especially like on social media. Like somebody wants to change, and then they look at what they want to be, and they're like, "Oh, I could never be like that person." But like that person is like on level 50, and you're like not even on level 1. You're just literally got introduced to the game, right? It's like the person that already went through like I don't know how many boss levels, and like you didn't even went through the tutorial, right? So it's like day by day is such a great philosophy, you know, day by day, right? One step at a time. It's like everybody was saying, right? And one step at a time, right?
Mhm.
But here's the catch, right? Dealing with it goes beyond achieving it, then starts to manage it, right? Because like getting it is the easiest part, but if you don't maintain it, you lose it, right? So here's something that kind of connects with Irene as well, because she knows this better than I do, better than we all do, right? Is gratitude, right? So like when you're grateful for what you have, you won't lose it. That's facts, right? So that's a good way to maintain, right? What you want, right? Is to be grateful for it, right? It's like ask the universe for wisdom to maintain it, right? And a more fearless desire and attitudes to then get more, right? Like never content or satisfied, always hungry and grateful, right? There's a difference between satisfaction and gratitude, right? I think that's one thing. I think another thing is, again, like stop with comparing yourself to other people, right? You don't have to be like them, and they don't have to be like you, right? You're you, and you're beautiful the way you are, right? uh, but if you want to change, that means that you don't agree with what is being said, right? In terms of like I can say to the viewer, and I can say to all of you here, right, that you're good the way you are. But if you don't believe me and you want to change, right, then go, right, and do it, right. um I think, yeah, again, like step by step, right. I think like for example, I think a big part of dealing with like change is like knowing that you can deal with it as well. But like, for example, I'll give you an example. If I if somebody invites me to go to the gym for 10 days in a row, and 10 days in a row I say at last time I don't go, on the 11th day, if I say to the person I'm gonna go to the gym with you, the person is gonna like, no, I know you're not, right? Even if you actually believe even if you actually have your things already prepared for the next day, but if you say to the person, that means that you're not going, right? And it's these small little defeats, right, that day in and day out ruin you completely. Like they just end you on the inside, right? It's like, of course you overthink and your mind is telling you you can't, because you prove that to yourself every single day, right? So small wins, right? Make your bed, clean your house, do your food, prepare food, right? Wash the dishes, wash everything, right? And then with the small you go to the big, right? And I believe you're able to deal better with it because you actually know that you can, because I mean you've done that this day, you've done that 2 3 4 a week, a month, a year, and you're there, right? And you're on the flow, right? And I think that's I think a great way to deal with change, right?
Mhm.
Especially when you're changing, because you always go back to what's familiar, which is crap, right? I mean, I'm so guilty of that. I mean, I should be in jail. But yeah, that's my take. Thank you.
Okay, we all do it, and I love the way that you started, because here's one thing that happens a lot, and it amazes me how much dance has to deal with real life. Um, I have a few students that they've been with me for already a few months, and they see the people that have been with me for a year, and they want to immediately do exactly as they're doing, without any of the knowledge, without any of the practice, without putting any of the hard work. They just imagine, which is good. You have to vision yourself or see yourself that way before you get there, which is it's fine, it's right. But the thing is that once they come to the first class and they don't get it by the second class, it's like, oh my god, this is hard. This is impossible. And I'm like, guys, this is not impossible. It's just that you're trying to compare yourself, like Bruno said, you're comparing level 1 with level 50. That person has done the hard work, which is what people tend to avoid. We all, and I'm guilty of that. Hey, we all want that magic pill that makes us lose weight without going to the gym and without stopping eating this amazing bacon that we make every single morning, or at least I do. And same thing, we want results without having the hard work, and that's not gonna happen. The next thing, like Bruno said, is understanding that hard work takes compromise. Okay? If you have that amazing work ethic, that you go and do it really hard the first time, but then the next 20 times you don't do it, guess what? At the end of the day, like Bruno says, you're going to see yourself, because nobody else is going to judge you besides yourself. Because nobody else is going to know besides yourself that those 20 times you chose not to do it. And then you're going to start judging yourselves like, I'm not good enough for this. So be mindful of those things. I love the approaches that we've had so far from Kara, Irina, Bruno, and that is the main thing, because the next thing is managing the stress that comes with it. Okay, so you already are putting the hard work. You're already half committed. You may have failed a couple of times here or there because, let's be honest, life is not perfect. Just before starting the show, today's show got started late because I couldn't find the power button in my speakers. So the dumbest thing ever, it stopped us from starting right on time. So I apologize for this. But managing stress is part of this. You have to. There's no other way. You have to. It's a must. Being kind with yourself. That's how you manage most of the stress. Or at least in my perspective. My perspective is that whenever I'm the most stressed and I'm about to blame myself for everything, guess what? I'm like, John, you're doing the best you can. Okay, let's break this into bite-sized chunks. Because usually we try to eat the whole world at one bite. And believe me, you're not gonna be able to fit all that in your mouth, even if you really, 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 really want to. And with this, I would like to break this part a little bit with Irina. How would you suggest to manage stress from your perspective? And I'm gonna go over the same question with Kara and Bruno because we all have different perspectives and different ways of working with this. So, Irina, the floor is yours.
Thank you. You know what comes to me? Stress is only when you call it stress, right? And when you recognize this is stress for you, right? Because it's all in our perception and the way we feel, what kind of emotions we put on. Because, like I always say, any situation is plastic, but the emotions that we add to any situation is gonna have that, bad or good feeling to that. So dealing with the stress, right? One of the best tools I always share is notice what you're noticing. When you notice with your emotions that you're, let's say, anxious or you're nervous, you know that this is not a normal state that you're always in. So you know this is a good time for you just to pause, take a few deep breaths, because when we are breathing, it just comes down our nervous system. And then think for yourself, what did I just think about that caused me these kind of emotions? Because our emotions are always connected to the thought. Because depends what kind of thought we are carrying, that's exactly going to produce the emotions for us. And when we could reconnect back again, we could catch ourselves and say, is this really the best way I can handle this situation? Like, what is it gonna change, right, for me? Because sometimes when we worry about something or we are stressing about something, it's not gonna, just our emotions are not gonna change the situation, right? The situation, it is what it is, but the feeling tone that we are putting in it is very important. So rather than being stressful, let's just come down, because like I said, either we are stressful, we are not going to change the situation, but when we are calm, it's like more solutions are going to come to us, first of all. And second of all, because we are based in that positive energy. Why is that positive energy so important? Because the impulses that we are sending to the universe, right, to that, conscious field, we are going to return the better outcomes for ourselves. And it always works. If somebody doesn't believe, I challenge you to try. Try to experiment and see how it is.
Yep, and that is right. I love the approach of breathing because that is one that sometimes when I pay attention to what's happening with me, I start doing that. I start breathing, and I say when I pay attention because let's be honest, we might be really really smart people, but we forget those things. When you're in the stress of the moment, you tend to forget those things. So when you catch yourself doing it, start breathing. Take deep breaths in, clear your head, start yourself thinking about good things, good positive things, and then figure out a possible solution. Okay. The next thing that Irina mentioned is about, you know, that energy, that positive energy. When you blast it out, is is at one point or another is gonna hit somebody or something and it's gonna bounce back to you. So trust in the universe, the the positive that you're sending out may not come back to you right away, but it's gonna come back to you. And when it does, believe me, it's tenfold. The universe never pays you halfway. Never. Okay? So whatever you do, put 100% and you'll get 1,000%. You put 2%, you may get 4%. Because guess what? Universe gives you what you need, and that's all it gives you. So if you need to change your life, you need to put 100% of your effort. If you only put 10%, 2%, 10%, whatever it is, life is gonna give you a little more. But life is gonna say, you know what? John really doesn't need that much. He's not putting 100%, so I'll give him something, but not exactly what he's asking. So be mindful of that. The universe is very, very wise, very wise. So back to the same question, Kara. So how would you guide us on managing the stress?
So I always go back to the hashtag magic 3, right? That there are 2 things in life, what you can control and what you can't. You let go of what you can't. There's only the 3 things, the 3 magic 3, the way you think, the way you speak, and the way you behave. So I would want to share a validation thing first, because change is stressful. It is, period. You are correct. But that doesn't mean it's bad. Right? We tend to connect stress to a negative. Well, we talked about that last week. Go back and watch that episode if you missed it. But there's distress, which is bad, that hurts you. And then there's eustress, which is what transforms you. And so I think when I am stressed, I think about these 4 things. So diamonds, they form under pressure. Olives are pressed to make oil. Seeds grow in the dark, and grapes are crushed to make wine. So if you're feeling under pressure, pressed, in the dark, and crushed, it's probably because you're transforming. And that's a small mental shift, but it really helps you go, oh yeah, this is real. So then what? And I would say it's really the 3 steps, the way I think, the way I speak, the way I behave, right? It's really simple. You just have to decide that you can. Now, simple is not easy because you have to do that over and over again, but it's really that simple. You start with thinking, I can. And then you say, what will you do? You say it out loud, right? Because knowledge is power when you know that, but it's not transformation. That takes that repetition. Repetition is required for retention. It's the re of life. So you have to say, I can. You have to say what it is that you will do, and then you have to go do it. And if it works, yay! Eustress right away. Love that. Take those diamonds. And if it doesn't, make a new choice.
Yeah. Recalculate.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. And I love the way that you present, how transformation happens in not just natural life or day-to-day lives. In the main thing that I want people to pay attention to this is when she was talking, I'm gonna take the grapes because I really like wine, but but when the grapes are pressed, they're being transformed into wine. So I'm not saying that it's something better, because sorry, each thing in its own stage is great. Grapes are great. Okay, wine is great with great company, with great friends, or just to sit down and relax. So whichever way you're going is gonna be great. But notice one thing: the grapes, the olives, they all embrace it. They don't say that to the press. You know what? Don't push me! Don't push me! Don't push me! I just want to be a grape.
Can you imagine?
Actually, just say, you know what? Give me with the best you got, and then age me for a little bit.
I just seen olives.
No. So now you know a little bit of how my brain works. How about you, Bruno? How would you suggest us to manage this?
I go back to the basics, and honestly, it was leaving the basics that kind of like screwed me over. That's how I got traumatized. Was leaving the basics.
Okay.
For me, the basics is gym, working out. I mean, that's all I did all my life was working out. And then like playing like D1 volleyball and like nationals like soccer. That's all I did was work out all my life. you know. So once I left it, it was like shit. It's like I started like getting complacent. I started getting this. I started, like I started kind of letting myself go, and it felt good in the moment. But it's just like once things really start happening, and like you feel like you're not the same person again, and like what happened? Like, oh my god, what's this? Like, wait, I don't know myself anymore. Like, I'm not this person. Like, I don't get affected by this. So why is it affecting me now? Like, since when do I care? Right? And that takes a toll in your mind, right? And I'll come back to those like small wins, right? It was always like that. Like when I was a kid, like once I started growing up, because of the way I grew up, I used to be like a massive overthinker, like massive. And the only way that would stop me from overthink would be get so tired, so tired, so tired, so tired. I wouldn't even have energy to think. I just get in bed. That's it. I fall, right? And that's how I got like super fit, and that's how I got my abs, and that's how I got my muscles, and like that's how I learned how to fight and all that, right? And once I left that out, right? And then like I went for some months without dealing with like doing anything, right? I just kind of like just shrinked, right? I stopped doing this like this, right? And yeah, I mean, what I do is I go back to the basics, right? I'll go back to the basics. I have if I'm stressful, right? I can go run or I can go for walks, right? Get some fresh air. Maybe have a shower. Um, like get some like hot burning water inside of my head. Like I don't know, like in those things I'm kind of like very. It's also kind of it's becoming a masculine thing. Like I take care of my face, all that stuff, right? Like I wash my face with those things, like I don't need like 100 products like women. I need one. That's fine.
Mhm.
But yeah, like we all have our techniques. But for example, like that's the thing about like we're all different, right? It's like you have your techniques and like I have my techniques, right? And we're all different, right? And that's what's beautiful, right? It's like
Yeah.
we all go through the same situation, and like probably more than 50% chances, right? That we all gonna deal with it differently. But in terms of like not how we feel them, but how we overcome them, right? Yeah, I think like yeah,
That is right. In the main thing that I want you to notice, all these techniques that we went over a minute ago, in ways that we deal with the stress personally, uh, they lead you to one path, in one path that I love, which is confidence. Once you start building that confidence for yourself as a man or as a woman, things start changing. People can perceive that. People can smell when you're confident. Believe me. Monday, I had a meeting with the second largest telehealth company in South America. We might be doing business with them, and it was the first time that I was speaking to a multi millionaire. And although I don't think I was the the brightest and shiniest from the bunch of people that were talking, I noticed that he paid attention because most of the people I was listening to the way they were speaking and they were hesitating. They all had a lot of words, and people that tend to say a lot, but if you pay attention, the meaning is very little. They're not confident. Usually, confident people, we go straight for the jugular, and we don't let go until we get what we want, because we know what we're capable of.
Yes.
And that's the one thing that people, no matter where they at, they can perceive it. Even on a video conference, they can perceive it. So dealing with the stress is not only healthy, but it's also a good way to boost your confidence, because the more challenges you can overcome, then whenever the next challenge shows up, you know that you have 100 behind your back. You know, you have 100, 200, 1,000 under your belt. So the next one's gonna be like, so bring it. Where's the next one? So be
You know,
able
I
to
say this a lot, but life, am I right? Come on. Because life loves to life all over our plans. But just exactly what you said, right? Already, to date, you have successfully survived 100% of your worst days. And you thrived 100% of your best days. So you're actually already good at this. And that's really important to remember.
Yes, and that's the thing. People try to run life like if it's a sprint. This is a marathon, and with several challenges: swimming, jogging, cycling. But guess what? Like Kara said, you already have 100 of those diplomas or medals, however you want to look at it, in your life that you have already won, but you have never um, celebrated yourself for doing it. And that's the one thing that I was gonna say. Next, understand that there's always gonna be a positive outcome. Who would like to go first? Raise your hand, and then I'm gonna ask the question. Okay, Bruno. Um,
Yeah.
if you can give us a story of when you remember yourself, you were really dealing with a lot of stress or pressure, and when you actually finished, the outcome was even better or just as you expected.
Yeah. I can, for example, tell you about my first day on a job, right? For some reason, we always believe people know more than us and they're always perfect and we're crap, right? And that's something that they taught me as well, right? Um, that didn't specifically happen on my first day. Um, at like on my first day of my first job, sorry. It happened on my first day, like on the third or fourth job, whatever. Because it was after I got fired from my other one. So like once I got fired from the other job, I was like, oh no, oh my god, I'm so crap, I'm so shit, oh no, oh my god, I'm not useful for nothing. I got fired. No, right, whatever. But then you understand, like, oh my god, it's just a job, and honestly, like, with all the respect, it's a shit one as well, so like, it's just one of those, like, it's just one of those jobs, right? And I was like, on my first day, I was like, oh my god, so like I have to be focused, and like I was like, okay, you have to focus, no, you have to focus, like you make fun of it. And I remember, like, just honestly doing it, and I'm like, it's not that tough. I mean, it looks tough from the outside, right? I mean, I look at it and I'm like, oh my god, it's so fast, this and that. No. But once you actually see it and you do it yourself, you're like, I'm doing it, it's fine. I mean, you just have to do it for like 5-6 more hours, but you're doing it, it's fine, right? It's okay. And I think that the level of overthinking that the mind of nowadays goes to, the levels that it goes to, is like ridiculous. I don't know how it was before because I didn't live in those times. I mean, I know nowadays, right, that it's just like, and everybody goes through the same thing. Like, people are such great actors and actresses. Jesus Christ. I swear to God. It's like you look at people and they smile at you, and like you're immediately going to believe the person is smiling to you, like actually smiling, like because the person is super happy. Bullshit. Come on, man. Like, no. Yeah, I smile. I can smile, right? I can smile, whatever. I mean, I'm fake smiling. I don't know how to fake smile. I don't know how to do that. But like, it's just like, that doesn't mean anything, right? It's like, and I think like everybody hides their problems better, but that does not mean you know how to deal with yourself, right? And that also does not mean managing stress. That means ignoring it, which creates more. And then you explode, and like you hurt the people around. Um, and it's like, I think, yeah, I mean, not overthinking would be a start, but that's a bit hard when you're always thinking about the future instead of living the present.
Mhm. But Bruno, let me reel you back into the question.
Oh, I
Okay.
thought I was into.
And the thing is, the question was just if you can remember a time in your life where you didn't think you were gonna make it because of stress or some other situation, and what was that great outcome or good outcome that came out of it?
Like I could. I mean, I could also talk about. Well, when I moved to the UK, I went to like big depression, and it was kind of stressful because like I didn't really love myself and stuff, right? And I was like, oh my god, I don't know if I'm gonna do this alone and stuff, and like how could she say this? Like I was like being a pussy, and like and basically well, I thought I couldn't do it by myself. I did it by myself, right? I took all the stress into myself, right? And I gave myself a chance, right? And what I understood about that situation was what the positive that came for me was, learning with the situation and knowing that like the majority of the stress we get, we put it to ourselves,
Okay.
right? Yeah. So that's the positive, right? And I didn't make it, obviously. I mean, it was all in my hands. But yeah, I mean, for me, that's kind of it ish. I mean, there's a lot more stories,
Sounds
but yeah, I mean, like, yeah.
good. And
Mhm.
Irina, for you, any time that you remember that you've been really, really stressed, you didn't think you were gonna make it, but then what was the outcome?
Actually, you know what? I'm always going back. I think like my biggest success as well, like when I was searching for jobs, because I used to change the jobs every couple of years. I know that was the only way to pick up more income. I wouldn't be lasting there for a long time. And I remember when I was staying with my daughter when I had given birth to my daughter, and then I was staying home with her for 9 months, and then I decided to update my resume because my mom got retired, so she could watch my daughter. I could have a peace of mind. So I went to search for the job. And I remember I went to this accounting recruiting agency, and this woman looks at my resume and she sees the gap, right? And this is like common our thinking that, okay, you had the break-in service. And she's like, um, I don't even know if you could even make the same money as you used to make before you went on maternity leave. She said, like I have something, and she gave me like something like really, really low. And I said, you know what? For that amount of money, I'd rather stay home with my daughter, because if I had to hire the babysitter, I would have to pay more. So I was like bold enough, but the thing is, it's all about like what you believe in yourself, right? So I said, okay, it might take time for me to find, because if we ever go back in our life for any kind of situations, good things take time in everything. Even when we talk about manifestations, right? People who rush in for anything, for the marriages, for the job, for everything else, they are not at their best choices. So sometimes it takes time to wait and understand that this is the process, it's not the failure, right? So I just gave myself the time. And in a couple of months, I had two offers for the exact amount of money I wanted to have. And I accepted that job. And that just proved the point to me that if we stick with our, beliefs and values, and at that point, I didn't know anything about manifestation. But because I guess my mind was so focused on, I'm going to get exactly what I have thought about, and it just arrived.
Mhm. And I love that because you said one thing that a lot of people tend to avoid, which is to stick to your original mindset. As soon as people see that something did not work their way, they immediately try to go and change it. Sometimes you got to stand the course for a little bit. Sometimes you have to let the life, smack you a little bit across the head. Because I guess, and I'm just guessing, that is the way that life tests is if you really, really want what you want.
Yes, that's the test. And what I also wanted to add, sometimes we start, shifting our mind because we start listening to everybody else's opinion, right? When people are saying, oh, so you better just, take what it's there because you're not going to find anything better. Or, you hear the voice here and there and everywhere, right? But I'm so happy that I was just listening to myself at that moment.
Mm-hmm. That is right.
And that's what we all have to do. We just have to listen to our inner voice because that voice knows the truth. Everything else, whoever is gonna tell you what's better for you, nobody knows better than you do.
Yes, as long as you have managed to control that inner voice. Because that's the other thing. That inner voice sometimes can tell you, don't do it. And it's just because that inner voice is just afraid of what could happen. But that inner voice doesn't mean that it knows your full potential, which was what happened to you. You decided your inner voice was firm and knew that you deserved better, and you stuck to it. But most people, oh no, the second they see that they're gonna get hurt, they rather say, you know what, I'll take it as it is.
Right, Johnny. I just wanted to add one thing. Inner voice, I meant our intuition, our gut feeling, right? Because the other one is our fear. It all comes from our mind. So when we listen to our heart always knows the truth. Our mind is the one who is going to overthink and find gazillion of reasons why no.
Yep, that's right. So, Kara, how about you?
Okay, so a real stress story where I didn't think I was going to make it that turned out to be a win. I have so many of these stories that we've had a standard phrase in our family for the better part of 3 decades, and it always works out in the end. And if it's not working out, it's because you haven't reached the end yet. So I will set the stage. Once upon a time, I had just won Employee of the Year at the company I was working at. I remember sitting in the hall as they were talking about the person who was winning the Employee of the Year and listing the amount of things that they did and how they helped the team and how they helped the company and what they had done, and thinking, oh my God, who is that person? That's an unrealistic amount of stuff. And then they said my name. Me? So I won Employee of the Year, and a few short months later was fired. Completely outside left field, had no idea that was coming, sat down to have a conversation with a couple of my managers, and was told that it was time to let me go. The very first time I had ever heard anything about it. And then I heard all of these stories about what had happened in the last few months and how I had changed and been this. And I'm going,
What?
I literally had no idea what was going on. So I said, well, this is the first that I am hearing of it. But if you believe that the only path forward is for us to terminate this relationship, I think you're probably right. And I went off and got another job. I was working at another place within 6 days.
Woo-hoo!
PM from that job showed up at my new job 7 days later, so a day into being at this new job, and said, well, after you left, the conversation did seem to be a little weird, so I did some deep diving into it, and I think we're going to fire that manager, and would you like to have your job back? But at that point, I'd already disconnected and moved on, and I said, I really appreciate that, and that has gone a long way to repairing our relationship, but no. And because of that, even though I thought, this is so crazy, why not go back to the place where you know you're a success? Why stay in the new position? I just didn't want to go backwards. And I had no idea what that would mean and what that would turn into. But 100%, that choice got me to today, because that connected me with another manager who then connected me to another manager that got me involved in the company, that got me certified as a coach, that got me to being where I am today.
Wow.
All because I got fired.
Yeah,
I love
everything
it.
has a reason, right?
Awesome. Just
What was that, Irina?
I said everything happens for the reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I love it because we all go through things like that all the time. We just don't acknowledge it. And I love how Kara put it, when she got offered her old position back where she was already successful and she knew how to work in that environment, she decided to say, you know what? I'm stronger, I'm tougher, I'm smarter. I'm going to go ahead and create a new path from here. And that's what life is. We tend to chase perfection. And life is not about perfection. We have to love those imperfections of life. And that was a big imperfection. I'm pretty sure, being awarded the Employee of the Year and then boom, right away you're out.
Only time in my life I've ever been fired too. I was like, what?
Yeah, that is tough. I mean, I was fired once, but I was 18, and yeah, I did a lot of stupid things, and my bosses were really graceful now that I think about it, because now I'm thinking, now I'm 36, I'm like, I wouldn't hire myself at that.
Oh, that's so real though.
Yes. I'm like, if any of my old bosses are watching this, thank you very much, because you have helped me to create who I am now with all my madness from back then. But in reality, we tend to chase perfection, and we tend to chase the Instagram life. And I'm gonna say that because couples try to, oh my God, my best friend, look at their pictures. Look how happy they are. People that tend to post things about their jobs. Oh, look, he's rising up. He's getting better and better and better and better. And they, truly, sometimes it's just a marketing campaign.
Yeah.
And we all share the good, right? I mean, that's why we started the Learn podcast, was because we were tired of living in a reality where we only shared the good. We wanted to normalize sharing all of it.
Yes, because the sad parts in life, it's also part of life.
It shapes us.
Yeah.
That is right. So now that we have seen the good that can come out, or that will come out if you just actually decide to keep going your path, let's talk about career growth. Because since this applies for everything, also applies on careers. We just heard it with Kara. That was the catapult that brought her to become a coach. And I'm gonna start with this one with myself. I was in corporate America, really hating it. I don't have another word of describing, because part of my life, some of you don't know this part, so I'm gonna open and share some of my life. When I arrived here to the US, I was undocumented for the vast majority of my life here in the US. So although I won a full scholarship for West Point, if you know what West Point is, you know how hard it is to get a full scholarship there. I wasn't able to take it because I was not a US citizen. For that university, you have to be a US citizen. Guess what happened? I went to depression. I went through everything that we just said that we shouldn't do. I did. So that's why I'm a master at not doing the things right at the beginning and learn them later. If anybody else is with me on that one, raise your hand. So yeah, and I went through a depression. And what happened next is that I said, you know what? Let me figure out what I'm gonna be good at. At that point, mind you, my parents, my dad is as an attorney. He was actually the advisor for a few presidents of my country or where I was born. So he's a well-educated person. But when he came to the U.S., seeing how the laws were and seeing that he was also undocumented at that point, his mindset switched and said, you know what, the best you can do is either work construction or work landscaping. And I remember that burned a fire in me because I said, although I don't have papers, I'm going to show you that I can do much better than that. Although my dad came from a good place, his heart was like, I don't want to see my son get hurt trying to get something more, just seeing how the system is. That also helped me at the same time to say, you know what, I did work construction, I did work landscaping, I work mechanic, I can do so many things thanks to that. But I never stopped. Later on in life, I started working as a salesperson for radio, TV. Then I worked for an advertisement agency. Then I learned sound engineering. Then I learned, because the words of my dad burned a fire in me to tell him I can do a lot better. So if it wasn't for that situation that happened early on in my life, I may not be here. My professional growth, my career growth, was heavily impacted by a conversation that I had with my dad. So your career can be impacted on different ways. Now you just have to choose how you're gonna handle it. Anybody else has a story like Kara's or mine where your career was impacted because of a conversation or because something happened? Irina, Bruno?
I have a small, like very small thing. I used to be a person that I used to say that I could do things and I could actually do them, right? I can actually go and do them, but I would be like, yeah, I'll do them. And then I wouldn't. And then this one time, right, I was going on a study abroad to Australia, and I told because I'm half Australian as well, so I have my passport. So I'm Portuguese and Australian. And I didn't need a visa. I didn't need a visa because I was Australian, right? And there was this time, there was this time thing, right? That you needed. There was this expiry date to apply, right? To write, your recommendation letter, apply it, right? Send it to them. And I was in the UK and I wanted to do like a study abroad here, right? And I didn't do it, right? And my mom, right? She was like, "Oh, did you apply?" And I was like, "Oh no, I didn't apply." And she was like, "We have to have a conversation. Like this has to be over. You can't continue saying that like you're gonna do something, say it, and then don't do it, all right? Because nobody takes you serious. I'm done taking you serious as well because you don't do shit." And I was like, "Fuck, she's right." And when that happened, that's when I kind of like shifted my mentality. And even in a lot of things, like for example, when I said like I got fired from that job, right? I tried to go back to my first job and they didn't want me back, right? That's when I looked for the other job, right? And then when I left the other job and I went to look for my fourth job, I got out of the third job, right? And I went out for like some months because like my biological clock was dead. I did like probably more than 600 hours on summer working nights, like 9 hours a night. So I needed some rest. And I remember like the year after, on January, I looked for a job and I was like, you know what, let me go back to that same job. And I was so sure they were gonna get me back, and they didn't. So I searched for another one, right? And it's quite funny because, like, again, like, change is horrible. It's so crap, and it's like I did the opposite as Gera. I tried to go back. I tried to go back, right? But life didn't want that for me. I think the universe wanted me to go, in fact, search for something. And it's quite hilarious because, like, I found not only something different, I learned something different in every single job. In my first job, I learned how to understand women better. On my second job, I understood what I don't like, and that literally is not for me. On my third job, I learned everything I needed to know learn about business. My third job was actually McDonald's. And obviously McDonald's is like business, 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 speed, speed. Number one rule in business is speed, and McDonald's has plenty of speed, literally. So like, and like, and then first job I worked as like a cleaner, right? And he taught me how to kind of like have a different view of the world, right? On like, he taught me how to eat my pride, because like when you're 21, right, and you wake up at 5:30 a.m. and like you could be living that lavish university life, but you kind of choose to like focus on your money and stuff, and all that stuff, and you wake up at 5:30 to then walk an hour, right, to get there at 6:30. Actually, you wake up at 5. I would leave my house at 5:30. I'd walk an hour, get there at 6:30 to clean, like to clean toilets, right, and to clean floors and offices and stuff, right. And it's just one of those things where like you really are brave if you don't have to change, but you dive. It's like you're diving into hell, right? A lot of people feel like hell is the unknown, and for that you need change, right? So it's like, I think like you're extremely brave. Not only every single person in here, but I think you're extremely brave as well. If you're watching this and you're going through change and stuff, like I don't think you should like complain, because because trust me, like you're just like going really big on what you're doing. I think that's oh,
Okay, perfect. So now, the reason why I wanted to go on something that has happened outside of work that has impacted your career is because that takes me to the next part: personal relationships. This is one subject that we have talked on the love life, but this time I'm going to talk about, the day-to-day life. There are people that are in your life for a reason, for a season, and sometimes for the rest of your lives. But you also have to be very careful in choosing who's in that season of life, because there's times that there's people that are very well intentioned and you need to cut them off from the root. And that might be painful, horrible, but in order for you to go through your change, there's people that can be there. Like in my case, I had to cut both of my parents out of my life for a period of time, for a long period of time. My whole family till this day, they judge me for it. Now I'm back, I'm good with them. But at that point, they didn't understand, they couldn't understand why I had to cut them off my life. I wanted to be more, and every time I wanted to do more and my hopes wanted to be more, they said, this is all you can do. And I know it comes from a well-intentioned point of view. I know. It's just that in their head, that's all they know. So in your case, does any of you have had to cut off somebody from your life, friend, family, in order to get where you are now?
I'm going to answer that question sideways.
Okay. Please, go ahead.
Yeah. So, no, I have not had to cut anyone out of my life. However, I have had to move people around in my life.
Okay.
Right? So, kind of like what you did. It's not that you cut them out of your life, because if you had done that, there would have been no way for them to come back. What you did do is decide that they didn't get to be a part of this growth space. You kind of distanced yourself so that when you were in a better, more strong place, you could invite them back and be like, look, do you want to be a part of this? And while I absolutely agree that people come into your world for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, I do not believe that you have to be okay with cutting people out or letting people go unless you want to. I think the choice is to support you and set those boundaries for you so that the person you are choosing every day is you. And then invite the people who choose you into that space. And that might mean that some of your family only gets to be Christmas buddies because that's the space where you can be together. And they don't really fit in any of the rest of your life. But that doesn't mean that they're bad or that you're bad or that you have to lose anything. You get to choose you. So I have had to choose myself in many situations that other people did not agree with. But I've never felt that I had to cut anyone out to be able to do that. I just chose not to spend as much time with them. So that's my answer sideways.
I love it
I
because
love.
actually, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You said the same thing. I love it. In the same time together.
Yeah, I love it because yeah, that's actually what I did. You're right. Now when we're explaining it, yeah, that's what I did. I didn't cut them off completely, but yes, I chose when they were okay to be in my life. And the whole reason why I say that you have to choose your relationships is because there are certain people that will show up in your life that yes, you will have to make the conscious decision to say, you know what, in my actual life as it is now or where I'm heading to, you don't fit. If you want to fit, these are the rules and that I'm abiding by for myself, and you're welcome to come in. And then they make the conscious decision. I really like the way that you put it because that is true. That is true. You don't cut them. You just select where they go, and also people will choose around you. Mhm.
For me, I just muted. I just mute those people. Like, honestly, with me, with my energy, people, don't get to talk much. I'm sorry, because they know that, not that I'm not allowing, but they know that it's not gonna affect me. Like, they could say as much as they want to. It's like, I'm just gonna watch them like on mute, right? Whatever they're saying, it's just okay. Comes in one ear, goes in another ear, because they know I'm like so strong-minded. Because if I want to do something, nobody stops me, right? So this is basically me. And when people start giving me advices, right, I always say, excuse me, are you there where I'm heading? If you are not, your advice is not welcome. Just simple as that.
I
You
love it.
can't give me advices because you're not at the place where I'm going to.
I actually use the same line that you do. The exact same line. People may not like it, but it's the truth. If they're not in the goal that we want to be at, why should we take advice? It's to me a waste of time, of your time, listening to everybody's opinion. Because if they haven't achieved what you want to achieve, it's just an opinion. So
Totally.
I love it. And that's why we do what we do here. And that's why I encourage you to look for professionals such as Kara, such as Irina, such as Bruno, to help you get where you want to go. As you can see, we all come from different walks of life. I handle a dance studio, and I'm also a business owner for other our marketing agency, and our reputation management company. Kara, she's fully vested on being a business coach. Irina, she's fully vested on being a manifestation coach. Bruno, although he had a path in coaching, now he's fully vested on email copywriting. But look at the common denominator. They are all healthy people that now are trying to improve everybody else's life. The whole reason why they go ahead and give their valuable time to come here live is because they really want to make an impact on other people's life. So whenever you have a need of guidance, I don't know anybody more qualified than these three people right here. So that is the one thing that I want to stress. Okay. And close today's subject with thank you very much for watching. I would love to, if you're watching this later on, I would love to, if anybody feels great and wants to share some of their life story, I would love to read it, reply. We would love to connect with all of you. And thank you very much, everybody. Till next time. Anybody else has
Thank
to add
you.
anything?
Thank you, Johnny, and we love you as well for your gifts and talents that you're sharing.
Yes.
And if anybody in your area, just tell again to people where you are, where is your studio located, and if anybody wants to raise their vibes to get out of their head and just use their feet,
There
they
you go.
can come and dance with you, and it's also great. It's the same way like we were talking about, right? Like Bruno mentioned that he dealt with the stress with the exercises, because yes, exercises take it from our head to our body, and it raises the vibration. So Johnny, you are doing also a great favor for a lot of people.
Thank you. All righty. Thank you very much to all of you. And until next time, goodbye.